Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear
I can
you.
hear you.
Okay. What's wrong with your finger, David?
Oh, you missed the big explanation. I don't know. I have what's called a either a trigger finger or a hammer finger, and so this goofy looking little splint is designed to keep the tendon from snapping. I guess that's the best way to put it. So
You don't want
it's
that to
not a
happen.
big deal.
Okay.
Not a big deal. I'm just looking for a little sympathy.
Okay. Well, I feel bad. I've had
Thanks.
some of those. You should see someone. No, it's nothing to fool around with. Anyway, should we start the meeting? Yes?
Yes, yeah.
All right. So Marguerite is on the road. I talked to her. She's in upstate New York, I think, right now.
Oh my goodness.
So she's coming back. She's driving back from Indiana, I think. So pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on June 16th, 2021. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. So we can start the meeting at 11:04.
So
Okay,
just for the purposes of the minutes, we have Jane Davis, David Eckberg, Janet Maney, Kim Regan, and Amy Yazdani as trustees in attendance, and Selectman Sam Stivers and resident Timothy Litt are in the attendees.
Okay. Should we go over the minutes? Does anyone have any amendments, adjustments, edits?
Or minutes.
Yeah, so I apparently did not send the minutes for November. So
Okay,
I will
good.
have to, yeah, I can send those to you following the meeting so you guys can take an initial look. They are ready for your review. I just apparently never sent them to you.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I will do that and we will review them hopefully approve at the next meeting. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. I thought I was just not seeing it. So that's good. I'm not insane. So should we go right to the director's report? Ryan.
Yes, we can do that.
I have a question about the facilities, the third subject there, Brian.
Yep, go right into it.
And my question, as always, is about the L word. The L word. Why are we having to cough up another $4,200? Isn't this covered by a warranty, or are we past the warranty date?
So no, this was identified in the initial assessment as a potential problem, but once the work was sort of how do you call it? Like once they decided what they were going to do with the amount of money that was divested into the project, this was not identified as something that needed to be completed during the planning of the actual construction. So this was about 1.5 years ago. So it was kind of like considered like an additional item. So that is why it's not covered under the warranty for the roof. The roof is actually the membrane. This isn't, even though it's on the roof, so this is kind of silly. It's like, feels like semantics, but because it's part of the stonework on top of the roof, like on the upper part of the brick and grout, the stonework above the actual membrane roof, that is why it's considered additional. And it wasn't part of the construction plan once that was. And we did have that reviewed by our project manager. So that's Mary Bolso, the OPM, and the architects at Spencer, Sullivan, and Vogt. And I'm telling you, if it had been in the construction plan, Lynn and Doug would have found it. They're very
Okay.
good at finding the things that we were contracted to do that should have been done. So that was, and this is also kind of really, I think this has already made a difference because it's rained a couple times and we haven't seen water come in. So kind of, not knock on wood there. But there was a more expensive option and we decided to go with this because you could have put a metal casing over the stonework. And we did, honestly, after we met, and Janet was with me, we met and we talked about this and we really identified that it was not necessary. So I think the last time we talked about this, we were kind of talking about going through with the metal, but that would have been, I mean, we're talking about a significantly higher amount of money for that.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I know that I think it's worth readdressing, David, though, the fact that this wasn't covered under warranty every time, especially since it's an additional expense so far after we thought the project was completed. So I appreciate your question, and it's worth mentioning it. Like anytime this comes up, I think we should talk about the warranty issue.
I guess in hindsight, the suggestion is that this item should have been included in the project, but it wasn't, and therefore we're out of luck.
Yeah,
right?
and just to review, part of that was this project was $1.4 million, I think, during the initial assessment phase. So a lot of this came down to the expense when the project was actually bid out. And it was part of this weird COVID transitional thing. Like we bid the project out right before construction prices skyrocketed. So we were able to kind of get a very favorable bid. Like maybe during the last season that favorable bids were a possibility, right? So we were able to come far under budget for the project as far as the CPA funding. But so this is a good segue into how to pay for this, because we have talked with the town accountant, John Parent, and I, the facilities director, and we've learned, even though we told the Southborough Community Preservation Committee that the project was closed, they have not really sort of closed the books on the project. So there has been no communication for me on this so far. So I have not reached out to them to let them know that A, we had a leak, B, that we were going to be doing work on it, because I didn't really have details on how much it was going to cost. At this point, we now have the bill. So, and the work has been completed. It got completed last Friday. So I guess my question is, getting feedback from the board, do you want me to reach out to the Community Preservation Committee, let them know, outline what happened, that there was a leak, that we needed to solve that issue, and that we still had the people under contract to come and do it? The other option is, you can already see we got our initial state aid payment. So there is kind of an alternate method we can do, which is we have a certain amount of state aid available to the library. We have additional state aid money coming in this year. This could be covered under that. So I'm happy with either of the scenarios. I don't think there's going to be a lot of potential state aid projects that we are going to undertake in the next year. I know we're looking at, Kim Regan and I met with Mrs. Levinson about doing the Indigenous speakers. We may come back to you with a proposal in the next few months on spending some state aid on programming, but I do not think it's going to be a significant amount of money. This would be somewhat of a significant amount of cost, but I kind of go back to that we went, I told CPC, I think it was over the summer, that the project was done. And then we found out that it wasn't. So I guess if you guys want to go and just have a discussion about it and let me know what you decide.
Well,
Let's
Ryan,
talk about it now. Yeah.
If we don't spend state aid, do we just lose it?
No.
Okay, so we keep, so I would suggest that we try CPC first.
Okay.
Is
I
that,
agree with that. Yeah. How
Is
about
that what you
everyone
would-
else?
Is that your recommendation, Ryan?
Honestly, either this is really up to the board at the end of the day because it's a financial issue. So I mean, if CPC is an option, that money was allocated and voted on at town meeting a couple years ago. So I don't think there's any reason why we can't ask and see what the answer is.
I'd suggest we try that first.
Do you think we need a vote on that?
I don't think you need to vote on that. No, you can
Okay.
if you want, but I don't think you need to.
What about the rest of you? What do you think?
I think if it's appropriate to ask, we should try, knowing that we can dip into state aid if we need to. I mean, we could explain the situation to them and, you know, kind of leave it to them to decide whether they want to grant us that money or not. So I think I agree with Janet that we should see how that goes.
Anyone else? David? Amy?
Well, you suggested earlier that the account is still open with John Parent in the town hall. I assume that it's too late to legally slide this into the total payments for the project.
No, that's what it would come out of, David, is that it's, so the project, even though it kind of like completed in the summer, they haven't sort of closed out the books on that. I think they
Right.
tend to do that at the end of the fiscal year. So
Yep.
there's still time, I guess is my point, to
Okay,
put in a request. And
All
then
right.
I guess if CPC doesn't, for some reason, doesn't want to pay for it, that isn't, you know, we have an alternate
Okay.
option, I guess, but which
that makes sense to
normally
me.
we wouldn't have been able to pay for other aspects of the project because it was so much money. But
Okay.
so maybe we should look at this, like, since the majority of the project was paid for by CPC and this is part of the project, we should engage with the CPC and see what they
Yeah.
say. I mean, my understanding is that because it's part of the project, it should get paid for. Right? So,
I agree.
Okay. I think all right, let's move on then. Anything else in that facilities section? If the renovations are finishing up?
yeah, so I have a little bit of an update. The cabinets and the painting in the staff room are, I think the last day that they need is today. So if you guys want to stop by and see the progress, it was just to kind of I guess kind of give you a rehash. They initially wanted to get white cabinets in the staff room. We had sort of tan wooden looking ones. And because of the sort of the shipment delays, the supply chain issues, we had to get an alternate gray cabinet. And we've made the cabinets now ADA compliant with height. So that's the good news. So there's a lot of discussion among the staff in the past week. I'm trying to find a paint color that they were happy with. We ended up going with the same color that the front room was painted. So that gives you an idea of the color, but you can kind of see how they're interacting. I would say the staff are as happy as they're going to be with the staff room. So that's the good news.
Okay, I guess that's good. So what about the rest of the staff? Was the budget? Well, let's go to staff updates next. Your
Okay.
PT associate Michaela is resigning.
Yeah, her last day at the library was last Saturday. So she's now she's gone. So
And what about replacing that position?
yes, so we would, as long as the board has no objections, we would like to begin the process of posting the job and then looking for a replacement. I will say, one of our other part-time library associates is a full-time teacher, and she was promoted as a department head for the English department, which is great. But it has also meant that she would like to reduce her schedule at the library. So I think this is a question that's come up. I think Amy is always the one who smartly asks this question. She's like, so are you looking to hire one person or more than one? And the answer to that question this time is we might hire up to two. I also may be getting potentially another resignation from one of our library technicians in January. So if that's the case, we may look to replace that person too. So there's a couple people I think who have hung on during COVID, and the circumstances in their life have changed. So that is, it's been great that people have stayed with us for so long, and I think that's a testament to how much they like working at the library. But I know we just did hiring for a lot of part-time staff. We're trying to see if the new people that we brought in also want to take on additional hours. So that's kind of my first stop. And then we'll fill, I would say, shifts based on the need that we have for people working.
How soon would you do that after the new year, you think?
Yeah, I think trying to hire this week and next week, even posting the job, is problematic. I think we should wait until the beginning of January.
Okay.
I saw David nod his head, so he agreed with that plan. Yeah.
Okay. That's too
Does that
bad.
make sense to everybody? Does anybody have
Yeah.
any?
It's too bad that so much shifting is going on. You think it has to do with COVID?
I think
They're
so,
just
yeah.
They're exhausted.
Or they did
And we
have
have-
alternatives during COVID.
Aren't we
and helped
all?
too.
Yeah.
What?
Some of
Yeah.
our part-time staff are, they have availability just on Saturdays, which is helpful to us too, but just trying to work Saturdays and during the week and have another full-time job is becoming too much for people, and I can understand that. So.
Yeah. Okay. How about programs?
I have a question about Jill Vroman.
Yeah.
Is this a gratis undertaking on her part as a way for her to market her commercial programs, or do we pay for it somehow?
No, she offers the programs for free. I'm usually at the programs. She doesn't market herself really during the programs at all. I mean, I would recommend going to, she also previously recorded them. I don't think we're going to be recording the upcoming session. Jill is a library patron. She comes in all the time. She makes use of the library. She actually, during the programs, promotes use of the collection. She recommends books specifically that the library has and has recommended resources. So she, not to sugarcoat it, David, she is a private fitness instructor,
Okay.
and she does
Okay.
charge people if they want to do one-on-one sessions with her, but she doesn't even mention that during the programs. I
Okay.
mean, we do make her email and contact information available if people want to make use of that, but she's not the first person we've had that has sort of like a private paid business apart from what they do at the library.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know her personally, but she's done a lot of stuff for town on wellness. I think that's her thing. So she wants to get it out there. That makes sense.
Mhm.
I think she's worried about the physical and mental well-being of people in town. And part of she reached out to us because we've done programs in the past, more specifically on sleep. I would say that that's a big interest of hers, and in trying to sleep right and eat right as a result of that too. So I really just think she wants to do something for the community. That's really where this is coming from. And, again, her programs have been, she did one with a yoga instructor that was basically like a free narrated yoga session, like over Zoom. And we had something like 40 people at that. Like, it was very popular. So I would just say, I'm not getting a lot of program numbers from people. I appreciate that we have a resident who's willing to partner with us who can bring those numbers in. So
That's excellent.
we
Okay,
did
and-
try to see if she'd wanted to work with rec. And I just think our pre-existing relationship with her as already doing library programs, it naturally fit better. So I did have a conversation with Tim Davis about that, and we just decided to keep it at the library.
Okay. These are virtual or in person?
They're virtual. Yeah. So we are gonna reassess that after the April session. Jane, we've talked about maybe doing 1 or 2 outdoor programs potentially.
Could you do them outside?
yeah, that's what we're thinking about.
Okay. All right. Should we move on to you and Kim working with Jessica Levinson?
Yeah, did we just to go to we'll do the budget after that. How about that? Because I
We
want to
can
talk
do-
about this year's budget and next year's budget. We can do that as a separate item. Kim, do you want me to go over the meeting or do you want to speak to it?
Go ahead, I can fill in anything if needed.
So it was last week on Friday morning. Kim and I met with Mrs. Levinson. I think we had a very productive conversation. She has a lot of ideas on partnering with the library. We also have some ideas on hopefully engaging some Southborough students. We've decided really we want to at least initially target a spring program at a middle and high school audience. So we're going to be kind of involving Mariana on helping to plan that. And I don't know, there's a lot of different partnership ideas, I think, that we're at this point, we're beginning to pursue.
Yeah, I think that was about it. Really, we spent our time in the meeting trying to determine what age group would be most appropriate for this first program. And Jessica has been trying to work with the schools just to bring some more social justice and anti-racist curriculum into the schools. And I'm not sure how much movement has really happened with that group on the school's end, but at the same time, Ryan had put out that he was interested in, bringing programs of this topic to the library. So it seemed like a good fit because Jessica has a lot of contacts for speakers on those topics. So I think our action items coming out of that meeting is that she was going to look at our list of contacts and determine which ones would work best for that kind of middle school, like high school age range. And then we'll talk again and just see, for the content of the program, how we could also potentially have some sort of partnership with the schools to tie that in as well. So, we're hoping to do something like this in the spring, but we would also need to look into grants and secure money to pay these speakers or speaker.
Okay, that sounds good. It's a good first step anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of grants, Mariana's expressed interest in working on a new LSTA grant for culinary education. That sounds good. Is there anything you want to say about that, Ryan?
We're kind of in the very early planning stages of it. I've been trying to sit down with Mariana for the past week. There's the couple ideas we have. We've looked at some libraries that circulate cake pans. So, as silly as that sounds, it's been a very popular thing at the libraries that have done it. So, instead of going out and buying like a Christmas tree cake pan or a pumpkin cake pan for the holidays, you might be able to borrow one from the library. So lots of questions about how to make sure those are clean, where we would store them. There's a lot of different aspects. We may circulate other cooking themed material. We also were looking at different groups in town. I know that Southborough Recreation works with a group who I have not had a conversation with. And I know there's that the cooking classes you can take on Route 9. I think it's called
Underground. Yeah.
Yep. So that is we have not reached out to them yet because again, we're kind of in the early stages of planning. But I wanted to let you know, Jane, because with the garden grant, right? I feel like I blindsided everybody after we were granted it. So this one, I'm letting you know that we're working on it. We're starting to pull together, I think, the different aspects of things we could do. A lot of, I think some of the support will go into Cookbook Club so that we could make it a little bit more educationally based. Honestly, I feel like a lot of that happens anyway because people talk about what they make. They share ingredients on some occasions. So that is really, I'd like to restart Cookbook Club on a regular basis starting in the spring. And this is kind of a nice companion to that. And Mariana does sometimes say, can I get funding? Can I get money? And that has been an issue in the past. So at
Sure.
least for 1 year, we could potentially support it with a grant, which I think
Yeah,
is going to be.
It was fairly popular, wasn't it? The cookbook club?
It was. And we did
Yeah.
do one in the fall. We did an outdoor version of it and we had people come. So, you know, there's an appetite, if you will, to start it again. So.
Good one. Okay.
Good take. Ha, ha, ha. Took a minute.
Yeah. So should we go back up to the budget and the expense report?
Yeah,
Do you want-
so kind of looking at the expense report, we finally have our first negative balance of the year. And usually these happen a little bit later on. So in the personnel bylaw, the salary administration plan, staff members, when they get a degree in a field that fits with their job, they can apply for something called the degree bonus. And there are different amounts for a associate, bachelor's, and master's degree. So this was actually been going on for months, really, was Mariana expressed interest in this and then formally requested the degree bonus. And the library has never paid a degree bonus before. So I was coordinating a lot with the assistant town administrator, Vanessa Hale, to sort of see the vehicle for how something like this gets funded. We do have a professional line item in our budget, but we only have $500 that we can expend. So there are things we're not going to spend money on. I think we're done on the tech line. So there's like 23 something there. And then the in-state travel, I don't think we're projecting to use at all for the rest of this year. We'll just have to keep an eyeball on the professional development line. I did send out a week before we processed the request. I let staff know that if they wanted to join professional organizations, that we would reimburse them out of the professional development line, just to see if anybody would do that. I've had one reimbursement request for $25. So the problem is that I don't want to tell staff no after I encourage them to join. So I want to honor their professional development request. So I'm letting you know it's going to be $25 even more negative next month because we're fulfilling that request. So far, it's been a couple weeks and there's only been one. So I don't know how many other people are going to apply.
So
And
Ryan,
how much was the master's degree bonus, please?
It was $1,500.
okay.
1,500.
Yeah,
So they don't build something into the pay. It's just a one-time bonus.
correct. Yeah. And then oddly, even though there's professional development money that the personnel board has in their budget, it expressly says in the SAP, it comes out of the department budget that benefits from the degree. So that is also, you know, I was not aware of this and I've read the SAP a number of times. It just never it's never come up as a.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the selectmen, so I think we're back to selectmen temporarily. Selectmen, select board, they typically get in touch with me if there's a budget item that's over $5,000. This item is, even if everybody joined every professional organization, I'm letting you know it's not projected to go over $5,000, but it is over $1,000. And I wanted to make you guys aware of that. It is something I'm keeping an eye on for the rest of the fiscal year. So I think we're fine.
That would have been a pretty tough thing to budget for anyway.
Correct. Yeah, because it's a one-time expense and it
Yeah.
wouldn't come up annually, Janet. I don't think that this is something that really would have been appropriate for us to budget for. It's something that, you know, we're aware of if we have another staff member who's in a library program.
Right. But still, you wouldn't necessarily know when they're going to finish. You know?
That's correct. They
Like
would have
maybe
to let
this
me
year,
know.
You don't want to put pressure on them if you want that bonus and we have it in our budget.
And then what if they were projected to finish and they needed to take another class or wanted
Exactly.
to continue? I mean, it might be the next fiscal year, right?
Yeah.
You know, so it's hard, that's hard to plan for, I'll say, in my defense. So.
Yes. I'd say impossible.
So that is, other than the closing date notifications, which actually were pretty consistent with what the townhouse and the senior center are doing. which just kind of lined up this year. And a lot of the closing dates, I did get some feedback from the public yesterday when the notice went out. They said, wow, you're closing a lot. And a lot of the dates are spelled out in SAP because the administration plan gives a certain number of days to the staff. And then the kind of the rub is the holidays fall on the weekend, which we split our staff on Friday and Saturday. So if we close on a Friday, we really have to close on a Saturday because I have to give the full-time staff a day off. So it won't happen like this next year. I don't think we'll have the same amount of closings, but I'm just letting you know, we are open 10 to 9 the rest of this week on Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then the following week we're open 10 to 9. So we have our late nights at the very least.
Okay, seems
Yeah.
good. All right. Was that it for the expense report? How about sent out?
Budget. Yeah, I didn't do
The
a compare
budget,
the picture
the
on the
budget.
budget. Is much changed?
No, so I can go, is it okay, Jane, to go right into the FY23 budget?
Yes, I think that would be good.
Yeah, so the day after I met with you guys last month, the personnel board voted a 3% increase for the staff. So we had budgeted 2.8. And then I actually was on the meeting and I asked a question because we had not addressed raises for the pages and the salary table is most likely going to increase. So I asked what to do about library pages, since it is likely that they'll go up as well. They may not go up to a 3% increase. What I was told by members of the personnel board was to budget for library pages as if they got a 3% increase. So that is also reflected in the budget. We're talking about a couple $100 for those individuals because they do not make a lot of money and there's not really a lot of hours that we're talking about at the end of the day. So we value our library pages, don't get me wrong, but this is something where at the end of the day, they work very hard and they're there a limited amount of time for a limited amount of money. So that wasn't that hard to integrate that component. I had to take from somewhere. So the educational supplies, which is the book budget, we kind of balanced the salary increase with the educational supply line. We still meet our materials expenditure requirements for the MBLC. So that is okay. So the budget, for the record, you guys have to vote it in again because the amounts are coming from different line items. So salary is higher, educational supplies are lower from the last review. And it is still at a 2.5% increase. And the bottom line number from last month when you approved it is the same amount of money. So I made this as easy as I could for you guys. I could have asked for more book money, but I didn't because I feel like we have enough to get us through next year.
Is 2.5 what they're asking everyone to do? Or that just...
They have not set a percent increase overall, Janet, for the departments. I think they're waiting to see what the departments are coming back with before they do that. I will say, since I met with you in November, I have met with the town administration team. So I met with the finance director, Brian Ballantine, the town accountant, Carla McAuliffe, and the assessor, Paul Sabelli. And we probably went over the library budget in 20 minutes, which I think was one of their fastest meetings. The one thing they had a question about was the programming budget, because it's going up so high. So then I met with our advisory liaison, who this year is Tom Wilson, who's a new member of the advisory board. He is a library user. So it was good because he knows a lot of what we do already. And his initial question was also the programming budget. So really what I let both entities know, and I'll reaffirm to you, is that every year the library is reliant on the Friends of the Southborough Library, which is a separate 501c3 that has to raise money to financially support what we do. And I will tell you, we had a meeting in December and they approved thousands of dollars for the library. I think it was like somewhere in the neighborhood of $4,000 on different projects for the next year. So they are a big support entity. But right there, we had to get $4,000 approved by a separate 501c3 support organization for items that really should have been supported in the budget. So our next step for this year is to ask for that budgetary support so that when we do programs, things like the meeting that Kim and I had with Mrs. Levinson about doing Indigenous speaker programs, we have already in 6 months spent the entirety of our budget for this year, and we had $1,000, and we had to be conservative about what we just put forth as programs. So I'm hoping in the summer, even if we're limited to just outdoor programs, we can see that users are going to come to outdoor programs. That's what we've learned in the last year. So I don't want to be limited by budget. I want to be able to do what we can do to serve the public and meet those programming needs and goals that we have.
Well, that's what I wanted to make sure, is that since they haven't come out with a specific number yet, that you're not self-editing too much in anticipation. This, I think we should go in the first pass of including everything you want. And if you have to cut back later, you could, but.
My kind of general stance, I would say, Janet, this year is I think that this is a very conservative budget. I think we are asking for the things that we need. I think we've talked for years now about increasing the programming budget to this amount of money. So I think that is really what I want to accomplish this year. And I think that I know it's a tough financial year for the town and for the taxpayers, and that isn't lost on me. So that's part of the reason why elements of the budget, we're not asking for like more than we need, I would say is the first thing. The programming budget really, if it's not supported this year, we've got to support it like soon, like if not this year, next year, the year after. And really, I don't see a reason why we can't support it this year. I think that this is the year to ask.
You know what, I've got, this question's been in my mind for a while. Years ago, like before I got on advisory, because they talked about an advisory, they tried to not have organizations rely so much on their 5013 organizations. They said those things shouldn't be, for regular expenses, we shouldn't be relying on those organizations to raise money. It should be built into budgets. So I was surprised to look at library, and I was surprised when I got an advisory that library didn't seem to have ever gotten to that point, that they have always relied on programming things. At least they're not using that to pay for, other more fundamental expenses. But I mean, I think you've got a good argument that your programming should come from the budget.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been having the conversation, Janet. I think when you were an advisory member, it was years ago that we started having that conversation with the town. And there's always been, one of the years we wanted to add an assistant director. And that was really the budget priority, right? So, we've always had something, I think, that has taken priority over programming. And it bums me out a little that programming always kind of fell to the bottom. This is the year I think we need to make programming the priority.
No, I agree.
Okay.
And Marguerite.
Hi, Marguerite. All right, so where are we? Do you want to move on to the COVID protocols update? Or do we need to vote on the budget? It says.
You do need to vote on the budget.
Okay, does someone want to move to?
I move that we accept the budget as proposed by Ryan in our handouts that include a 2.5% overall increase.
Second.
I second. David seconds. Okay. Who's first? Jane Davis, aye. David
Aye.
Kim
Aye.
Reagan,
Aye.
Janet Maney,
Aye.
Amy Elsdani,
Aye.
Marguerite Landry.
Aye.
Okay, it passes as written. Okay, so let's go on to the COVID protocols update. Ryan.
Okay, so we did have to shut down the library 2 weeks ago for a couple days. There were, not getting into details, there were 3 potential COVID issues that happened with individuals within a 3-day period. So I was on the phone a lot with the Board of Health. The Board of Health said until we started seeing, I guess, sort of a widespread spread, that we should not shut down the library. Marguerite and I did briefly have a conversation because I was very concerned about being open. And I think at that point, I think a lot of the staff were concerned too. And I decided that a lot of the staff wanted to get tested. They didn't feel comfortable coming back until they knew that they were healthy. So I made the decision to shut the library down to give the staff sufficient time in order to get tests to verify that we were COVID negative, and then to reopen when that happened. So it ended up only taking 2 days. So we were open Monday, we had to close Tuesday and Wednesday, and then we reopened Thursday. I would say if this was one issue, I probably wouldn't have shut the library down. 2, I think I would have started to get a little nervous, but when the number went to 3, I feel like that was 3 strikes and we're out. We should close the building to make sure everybody was okay. So I think I spoke to almost all of you on Tuesday. Jane, I think you were one of the few people that was spared a phone call. So I apologize that I did not reach out. But again, I think I was on the phone with trustees in between talking with Nurse West and Dr. Alker from the Board of Health. So, that was also kind of talking to the affected staff members and making sure that everybody was doing okay, which people, I would say on Tuesday were not. Everybody's good now. Everybody's back at work. So that's the good news. And I would just say if something like this happened again, I think this is a good check-in. I would probably shut the building down again. So I don't know if you want to have a discussion about that. If you, we can have a meeting, but we have to post a meeting. So it's going to take 2 days anyway. So I don't know if if we need to reaffirm the fact that, there are cases where I'm going to have to use my judgment about this.
I'm happy to trust.
Does
I'm
anyone
happy to trust your judgment.
have comments on that? Concerns?
No,
Yeah, you
you're
have to do this
careful.
quickly. Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
When something like this comes up, you do have to move quickly. I think you did the exact right thing. And I'm not saying you have to do it exactly that way next time. I think using your judgment's the best route.
Anyone else? I think your sense of what your staff needed was probably, right on point. You needed to do what makes them comfortable because they're working in they're facing the public. And if they're not comfortable, then I think you did the right thing. We're not in there all the time, so you would know best, Ryan.
We did also look at what the schools are doing, but I would say one of the things that Nurse West reminded me gently is that the schools are more of a closed environment where they can kind of, to a certain extent, control like sort of the traffic flow. And honestly, they kind of know who's coming in and out. With the library, we have a lot of older users and a lot of senior users. And that was kind of the consideration. I'll just say as one of the factors too, is I wanted to not just make sure the staff was safe, but also the public that was coming in. So that was why.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you did the right thing. And I think we can rely on your good judgment were this to happen again, which it may. We're not through this yet.
Not by any means.
The one thing that I can, I guess, confirm for you at this meeting and moving forward is that I would only close the building if I really felt like we had to. And if there were things like, we were waiting to get test results, I would say that was kind of the main thing. I will say, we as sort of a COVID protocol update as well, our call for mask donations, there was a patron named Yin Yao who donated over 4,500 masks to the library, which
Wow.
is,
Wow.
that is so, I have to publicly thank Yin for doing that. That was more than I expected. We also made an investment in purchasing additional masks. So I think a good check-in, I know we did this at the end of the last meeting, but we have it as an agenda item. But if you guys want to have a discussion about maintaining the masks inside the library, I think that is worth rebroaching that in this meeting too, so that.
Well, okay, yes, I definitely think you have to enforce that. I mean, the numbers keep climbing in Southborough and in Massachusetts, and with I think it's correct to require masks and hand sanitizer at the door. That's, anyone else have a different opinion?
There's
I
something
agree
like
with that.
60 new cases in the last 2 weeks in Southborough.
Yeah, we need to be careful and
Yeah.
protect ourselves. And the science says that the masks do really protect you. You just have to
Yeah.
wear them
I
and
agree.
keep a distance.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I
sorry.
mean, just we have a small staff, as much of protecting everyone in the community, we have to make sure our staff is safe as well. And that'll help us avoid disruptions in the future, hopefully.
Okay, I think we're in agreement with maintaining where we are now, keeping it the mask requirement. Is okay?
Yes.
All right. Town report 2022 content discussion. Is this
So
not the action plan? Oh, the contact information?
Yeah, so this was, we, just as a reminder, refresher, some of you may not even know this, but every year in December, I put together a revised piece for the library that goes into the official town meeting report for the year. So some of this is duplicated year to year. It's just this is what the library is, this is what the library does, this is the library's mission statement, right? But I do try to include some updates. So one of the things I can tell you is I have done a lot more editing in the past few years because of COVID than prior years, right? A lot of it is updating statistical information. That's the whole third page of this. And we kind of talk about different programs that the library does. So that is still there. There's still a section on library programs. What I decided to remove this year was the area on the meeting room, since that essentially has not been functioning and it's going to be 2 years soon. And then in the sort of the volunteers, we do still have, I would say, a few volunteers, and we have about half of the senior tax write-off people coming in. But one of the pieces in the town meeting report is kind of like our bragging rights on how many volunteers we have and how many hours that they contribute to the library. I don't have anything to brag about this year. I will say we have a couple of volunteers who really have stuck with us and who help make the library great. And that, I assure you, they are getting appreciated. And Kim, our assistant director, has given them a special holiday thank you this year. So I did think it was very important to include the library diversity statement that you guys voted in the past year, so you can see that that is present. I also included some pictures of the staff, which other departments do in their reports. So that was one thing that was kind of new. So other than that, all the information has been updated. I want to make sure you guys are okay with, I guess, the submission. And if
Mhm.
you have any edits or you don't like part of the report, you can send it to me. I need to turn it in by next week. So I'm not giving you a lot of time, but it's due at the end of the month. And I didn't really finalize a draft until last week.
Okay. Does anyone have any edits right now, or do you want more time to look at it?
I need more time.
You need more time. Okay.
Ryan, do you want to set a date that you want comments by?
Can we do by Wednesday? Because
Sure.
I'm probably gonna turn it in Tuesday or Wednesday of next week would be good. Because I probably have to submit it by end of day Thursday. So
Okay,
Okay.
Wednesday's the 29th.
that way people have post-Christmas to read their library town meeting submission. If there are things you want removed from it, you can let me know that too.
Okay. So that sounds good. I like the picture of
Thanks.
staff.
Oh, you like the flowers
Sort
out front?
I said the picture of staff.
Oh, okay.
All right. Did you want to go on to the staff survey with Ryan and Janet? This action plan?
Yeah, so this is really one of the things that I keep not doing. So I added it as an agenda item, is that I don't even remember how long ago this was, 6, 7, 8 months ago. Janet and I were talking about this in a meeting, and we talked about doing a staff survey with
Mhm.
one of the questions being, how can the library director better support your work? The kind of targeted questions to see how we could make the library working environment better for staff, and then how I could better support them or how they could better work with me. I just haven't kind of pulled the trigger on this. I haven't put together questions. So I think one of the things that might be helpful is that if you have questions that you think should get answered for the staff, is to send them in to me. And then I'd like to set a date with Janet in January to kind of go over the questions and then finalize a draft of the survey that we could bring back in the January meeting.
Okay, you want them sent to you or Janet or both?
Just to, I always worry about the OML thing. If you
Yeah.
send them in to me, I'm going to meet with Janet and go over the questions with her. And then this was all Janet's brainchild. And I think we should, I want to make sure that Janet reviews the questions with me, and then we can present jointly a draft to the board of the best ones.
Okay.
I do have some
Okay.
ideas to myself that I would like the staff to get feedback on, but I want to go over those with Janet and make sure that they make sense.
Remember, this came up when we were providing feedback for Ryan's performance review. And since we hadn't been in the inside the library very much, and no one had been, it was pretty hard to have material to give him feedback on or judge on too as well. So we thought this would be better, more data for next year.
Yeah.
By the time we get the results, it might be time for my next performance evaluation.
Well, that's what I
right?
was thinking. If we get going on it now, we will have it.
Yeah, that's how long it's taken me. So I just,
It's been a busy year.
yeah.
Could Betsy Rosenblum be of any help to you guys?
She's not on the performance personnel board anymore.
I know she's not, but I mean, as an
Prior.
adjunct.
I don't know.
Well, I think
Here's the
Janet and I will work on it, and I think
Okay.
that's a good suggestion, David. I think if we have any questions or we want another set of eyes, we could reach out to Betsy. I'm sure she would be more than willing to take a look at it and
That's what I
tell us
meant.
what she thinks. Yeah, I would say so. If there's like questions or there's things we're not syncing up on, Betsy's always a good tiebreaker. I say too. She's good at looking at things and saying that makes sense. That doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, can I ask a question from the car?
Sure. Yeah.
The length of it and the format of it and the anonymity of it, is it going to be anonymous, or how do you see it being, Janet? Just quickly. mean, I think it's a great idea. I'd just like to know what your conception is.
We're doing SurveyMonkey because we still have the paid account, I think through April. And then there is a way we can do that anonymously. So I'll investigate that. I think it's in how it's distributed to the staff. And I'm sorry, Marguerite, I forget the first question. The
Length.
length
I
was,
just wanted to know if it was anonymous, how long it would be, and if there are like written parts, which seem to be very useful in surveys.
yeah, I think we would try, I think most of it is going to be sort of short answer, if not longer. And then, but again, I mean, we don't have the questions yet, but I would just say people tend to teeter out if the survey's over 10 questions. I would say if we get to over 12 questions, we're probably not going to get good responses. So it will have to be kind of
Right.
targeted. We'll have to really ask the questions I think that we want answers to. Those are my suggestions, though. I still think I should sit down with Janet. Like if Janet is like, listen, like these 15 questions are the best questions, and we really should do a 15-question survey. I will hear that feedback. And I think, you know, that will be, I think, one of the things that maybe we could possibly ask Betsy what she thinks, right? I'm thinking about the MTC survey, and I don't know how many of you filled that out. I don't want that many questions. You know what I'm saying? I think it needs to be a reasonable
No, it
amount
was
of time.
deadly. Yeah.
Yeah. Does that make
Okay,
sense?
all right. It sounds wonderful. I mean, there's only usually with the survey, it's like a performance review. There are 3 things that we could focus on immediately, and maybe 6 other things we could focus on later, just to get sort of, you know what I mean? Anyway, I think it's a great idea, Janet. I love it. So I'm gonna turn on mute now because the car's making a lot of noise.
Marguerite,
Thank
where
you.
are you?
Thank you for that input, Marguerite, from afar, from New York.
I'm somewhere near Albany, New York. I just passed a sign that said leather stocking country.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I know where that is.
All right, I'm going on
Okay.
mute. Sorry about the
All right.
noise.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Okay, so that's any other business does anyone have anything else that needs discussing? Anything?
Oh, should we just go to the program policy? Is that
Oh, I
okay?
skipped that. I'm very sorry. Yes, program policy revision.
Mr. Litt is raising his hand.
Okay, yes.
I think we have to bring Mr. Litt over. I don't think we're using chat anymore. So
He's got his hand up, so.
yeah, Mr. Litt, I'm gonna bring you over as a panelist, okay? Since you have your hand raised. Is that okay with the board?
Yes, please
Sure.
do that. Yeah.
Hi, you could have just turned on the audio, but that's fine. There were 2 things. I mean, the first is I hope you're all are having great holidays, and I thank you for all the work you do during the year. But I do have a request. When you meet in person, you're really good about handing out the materials that you're going to discuss in paper form to those of us in the public who show up. Many of the other boards will post that material with the meeting agenda on the website. And if you could do that, it would be a lot easier for us to follow along with what's happening. So that's my end of the year request for a Christmas present. Thanks.
So you'd want them with the agenda, just all in
Normally,
one.
what the other boards and committees typically do is they post the agenda, and then closer to the meeting on the same page of the website, through the town clerk's office, they post, whatever materials are going to be discussed, or at least, the bigger important ones. So
Okay.
like, what you hand out in the meetings when you meet in public, like the director's report and where you are with the budget and other things you might be discussing.
Okay. Well,
Thanks.
that's helpful. A good suggestion. Thank you.
So thanks again, and do enjoy the holidays.
You too. Okay, so Ryan, do you want to go back? Do you want to discuss that? Anyone? No?
I think part
Okay.
of the problem with the director's report is in order to be up to date is frequently not ready until like the day before the meeting anyway.
I think it's
Yeah.
okay to post it that day,
Yeah,
day before,
yeah. All right. That's duly
or
noted.
morning of.
I
I
mean,
think just so they have it.
we can talk to the town clerk about it. I mean, the requirement is to submit it with the minutes. If a resident, I know Mr. Litt frequently attends our meetings, as does selectmen's like board member Stivers. So, you know, I'm happy to make meeting materials available to people who request them in advance. So when I send out the materials to you, I could send it out to them as well. You know, my feedback would be, I don't know who other than Mr. Litt and Mr. Stivers follows our meetings enough to want the materials in advance, who couldn't need it after the minutes are posted. But if you want me to, I can try to have the materials ready for when the agenda gets posted. I just know, like, sometimes Marguerite will post the agenda and then have to revise it later. Like, I don't want to have revised meeting materials, if that makes sense. Like, we just have to sync up the time frame for it if we did that. But I don't have a problem, because these are all public documents, with providing Mr. Litt, Mr. Stivers, with anybody who requests it in advance,
Right.
the meeting materials. So if that is something that the board doesn't object to, I'd be happy to include them in the
Ryan, we can also, since the director's report and the expense report are frequently hard to get done until right before the meeting, we can post online. We can send it to the town clerk's office a day before, day off, and then I think that will be the best we can do with that. I can see Tim's point about getting it in for the meeting, and so I guess we duly noted, Tim, and we will do what we can do on that, I think.
Right.
I know Jane has asked for it in advance before too, so she's got to hold me to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to get it in advance and be able to really look at it. It's another thing to try to follow our discussion in the group without having the budget, piece in front of you. That's,
Yeah.
they're putting their time in and we're not giving them at all the
Right.
adequate data.
So I think
helpful.
we can. This is a good point, and we can post those things.
Okay, yeah, it's good that he brought that up. Thank you. All right. So let's go to the program policy. Did I skip that? I'm sorry.
No, you didn't. So this is more of a long-term planning. So I think I promised you guys that we would be looking at policies on a regular basis. So we recently completed the volunteer policy in November. And that, that was a lot of work for Kim and Amy Asdani to take a look at. So, and we had some staff weigh in as well. I would just say I've reviewed the program policy. This is also kind of timely because we're looking at adding programming funding in the budget, right? So this is kind of I think a good segue into getting our heads into a programming space. Is that was last updated in 2012. I think there's a lot to update. It's my feedback. So, I don't know if there would be interested parties, if people would want to send me feedback on the policy. I don't think this is going to get done in one meeting. I think this one's going to take potentially longer than some of the other ones. But I'm looking for sort of trustees to help me update the policy and then to eventually bring back a revised policy to all of you.
Okay, well, we can take a look at it, and it does need revision. I took a quick look at it and I think it needs a little updating. So I'd be happy to look at that, and hopefully some of the rest of you would not before Christmas, but in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll put this on the agenda for January, and then we can kind of chart a path for what we would like to accomplish with it. And then come up with sort of, if a particular trustee wants to take the lead and then work with me on the revisions.
Okay, that sounds promising. I like that.
Is a program policy okay with everybody to work on next?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, we'll take a look at that. All right, that was good. And so is there anything left here? I see the contact information, you sent that out, total material. Was that part of the action? Anyway. is there
Oh, yeah,
more to talk about?
so the action plan is part of the grant filing for
Yeah.
LSTA, is that it's really just an extension of the strategic plan we have on
Oh,
file,
okay.
and it talks about a couple targeted activities. So there was confusion in previous years. Just because it's not on the action plan doesn't mean it's an action that the library can't work on in the next year. So the action plan is a sort of a requirement of the grant cycle. And typically they like something that ties into the grant that's in the action plan. So you guys can see that that is present because it talks about doing culinary programs. And we're applying for a culinary education grant through LSTA, right? So see what I did there?
Yeah.
So, it also talks about, marketing resources, updating signage, all things that some of it even ties back into the ADA plan, because John and I have talked about doing increased ADA signage. So I just want you to know those items are not mutually exclusive. They're not the only things that we're going to be working on in the next year, but those are kind of targeted things that I really want to accomplish in end of FY22, beginning of FY23, because it's the beginning of the calendar year.
Right.
To Mr. Litt's point, if you haven't seen the action plan, you have no idea what I'm talking about. So right there, that's that kind of proves this point, right?
He proves
So,
that he's right. Yes, we
Yeah.
need to get that out ahead of time. All right, going forward, we'll make that happen, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? It's been a very productive meeting.
I do
No?
know that the Open Space Preservation Commission is meeting now. They started 10 minutes ago. And I did look at their agenda because I pulled up ours and the library is all over it. So
okay.
I don't know if some of you want to hop on over there after we adjourn, but I think they're talking about their CPA application. And I think they're talking about the multiple phases of the library garden. So I know Jane and I attended the presentation that we were invited to by Mrs. Gillespie. So Jane, I heard you went in
There.
person.
I went
Yeah.
in person.
Yeah, we
Oh,
were
you were
online. We were
online,
virtual.
okay.
Yeah.
No, it was good to see Dr. Gagier in person and
He's a very good speaker. What do you think?
Yeah, we've heard a lot about him, right?
Yes.
So it was good to hear the voice, at least for me.
Yeah. He was an academic, clearly an academic. Yeah, it was interesting. There were only 12 people in the room, which was too bad. And but I'm glad to hear others were on Zoom to hear
And they
him.
recorded it. It's going to be available on Southborough Media Access.
Well, that's good because all those different kinds of bees and
Mhm.
different details, he if he wanted to take notes, it was hard.
If anybody sees it on, let me know, post it to all of us so we can watch it. I couldn't be there. I couldn't watch that night, but I have a friend who was really into that and said he's like the person.
He's the
Yeah,
guy.
I gave up
Yeah.
about 45 minutes in when it was just hopeless. You could barely, he'd say something that was really interesting and then you wouldn't hear the end of the sentence. It's like, okay.
I'll send, if the link gets posted, I'll send it to all the trustees.
Okay.
So you guys have it. So anybody who didn't get to view it can view it
Yeah,
once
it
it's
would
up.
be good to see it again because he went pretty quickly too. He made a lot of important points, but he was zipping. I think he was afraid to lose interest, but anyway, definitely worthwhile. I
Next
think that's
meeting?
it.
Next meeting?
Oh, yeah, I can do that.
When
The
is
one
next
other
one?
announcement that I'll give is Mr. Eckberg and Mrs. Regan have dropped by the library to pick up their holiday goodie bag. But for the remaining trustees, there might be a holiday goodie bag in the director's office / staff room. So if you want to visit, I'll be there later this afternoon and tonight, and then Wednesday and Thursday, I'll be there too. So you can feel free to drop me an email or send me a message and confirm I'm there. If not, you can check in with Kim. She will know where they are. So
That's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
It really is nice.
So
Unnecessary,
you've
but
already
not-
had your staff holiday party?
yeah, we did a small holiday gathering because we really didn't want to bill it as a party. And we just got like a few sandwiches at D'Angelo's, and Pat Ellis actually stopped by
Oh,
and we
nice.
got to see her. So she, if you were, all of you know, she
Yeah.
retired earlier this year. So she was like our special surprise holiday guest. So she's
That's
doing
nice.
really well. Yeah.
Good.
And it was really great to see her. And I know her grandbaby's coming up for Christmas. So she was telling us all about that. So it was nice to see her and see that she was doing really well.
Mm.
I hope
Excellent.
in the spring, when we're doing the staff appreciation in April, that Pat and others who have graduated will be able to come to that as well. I think that would be lovely if we can do that. If we can
The next meeting would be the third week is January 18th. Just to make you aware, that is the day after Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So it's a holiday on Monday. So we would just need to file the agenda and apparently get all my meeting materials done early.
Really early.
For the week before. Yep. So just bear that in mind. We probably need all the stuff by the 12th, I would say, which is the Wednesday before. So it doesn't give us a lot of post-Christmas time to mess around, everyone. So
All right.
Well, I think
be
we'll all
on
be
I
stuck
think-
inside
I
because of
think-
COVID, so we've got time.
it. Good time. Yeah, we're not going
that'll be
anywhere. Right. All right. Well, does anyone want to move to adjourn? Or can I do that? I move that we adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay.
Second,
All those in favor, Jane Davis, aye. David Eckberg,
All right.
Janet Maney,
aye.
Kim Regan,
Aye.
and Yemi Yansani,
Aye.
Marguerite Landry.
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned at 12:15.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry
Yes, Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
Yes, Merry Christmas, Amy. Have a wonderful time. I'll see you at the CPC meeting shortly.
Oh, right.
Are you going to watch it?
Oh,
I'm going to tune in.
Yep, me too. Okay, bye, everybody. Thanks.
okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Stay safe on the road there, Landry.
Okay.
all right. I hope I did okay on the survey, Janet. And I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to talk to you ahead of time. So,
No, that's okay. The other thing that we need to do is preservation restriction.
yeah.
Send
Well,
a letter in requesting for lawyer time and stuff.
yeah, I gotta do the memo to the personnel board. I'm starting to have like a list. So maybe post holidays we can sit down, like the
Okay.
first full week of January, and we can just iron out this. That would be good. And then we can spend some time in the survey too. So,
Okay, good.
okay.
Brian, I missed what you said about the next meeting. When is it scheduled, please?
The
It's
18th.
gonna be Tuesday, January 18th,
Okay.
at 11 a.m.
All right, got it.
Because until people tell me they don't want to do the 11s. And then I think the Zoom stuff expires in March again. So that's an important thing for us to remember. And then I don't know. I know Mr. Litt was talking about if we go in person again. I don't know if they're going to extend it again. So we'll find out.
The way things
together.
are going now, I'm sure they're going to extend it.
Yeah, I have a feeling that you're right, Janet. So
I just hope
sorry,
we don't-
David. I know you
library
want those in-person meetings.
I've adjusted. I've adjusted.
Okay. All right. Bye. Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Have a good holiday. We'll see.